She's the self-help coach and manifestation guru. Quite nice. Whose best-selling books have helped millions of people around the world.
Yeah, Roxie Nafousi is on a mission to help you transform your confidence for the better, something that she says anyone can learn to do with some very simple everyday habits.
And Roxy is joining us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Roxie. Lovely to see you.
It's so funny. So many people struggle with confidence. Why do you think that is?
I think there are so many reasons we struggle with confidence. Some of it is evolutionary, so we have a negative bias, so we're more likely to focus on the negatives. Some is to do with our upbringing. I mean, the way that I see it, you know, when I look at my son, who's 5, Wolf. Kids are kind of born full of confidence, right? You've got little girls dressed up as Elsa in the supermarket. They're not self-conscious. They are happy to show up as any version of themselves that they want to be that day. And I think we all start off like this. And then something happens, and that's life. And life happens to us. And we essentially all come to believe one thing, which is that we're not enough as we are. And then we keep trying to mold ourselves into what we think is lovable or desirable by our parents, our friends and peers and society. So I think it's really no surprise when you consider all of that, that we sort of grow up believing, you know, we're not good enough, and all these insecurities start to compound, and it's exhausting.
Yes. Yeah.
So we end up getting conditioned into losing the self-confidence, the lack of concern you have as a child. And you believe, actually, if you think about that, we've learned to be like that. We can learn the other stuff. We can learn to be confident and sort of upskill ourselves there.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I spent all of my life full of self-loathing. I hated myself. I really did. And I always felt like such an outsider. And
that seems extraordinary, Roxy, because obviously you're incredibly successful. You've sold a lot of books. You're sitting here talking about how you can share your confidence and how people can learn confidence. What was it that was the crippling anxiety that you dealt with? How did that come about?
You know, I grew up in Oxford as an Iraqi, and very early on as children, we notice our differences. You know, I wasn't eating, you know, sandwiches for lunch. I was given hummus and flatbread. I wasn't celebrating Christmas. I was celebrating Eid. I looked different to the other kids. And, you know, you start feeling other very young. And for me, this kind of feeling other made me act in ways that I regretted. You know, I tried to get attention from boys, or I then turned to drugs and alcohol, you know, later in my life as a form of escapism from that self-loathing. And it held me back in so many ways, and I know so many people listening and watching are going to feel the same, that they know that they've been held back by their own self-doubt, limiting beliefs. And I suppose when I delved into the world of manifestation and self-development, I realised that actually, if we have the power to believe we're not enough, we do have the power to change and believe that we are. And for me, of all the things that I may have achieved over the last few years, the greatest gift that I've given myself is this gift of confidence. It really has transformed my life in every way. And it's little things, right? It's being able to go into a yoga class and be the most inflexible in the room and not care. It's being able to walk into a party on my own and feel comfortable to introduce myself to someone. You know, it's all these little ways that confidence really makes your life so much more fulfilling.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting as well? I feel like, well, this is me personally, but sometimes on a day you can feel really confident, and then it cut to the next day and you just really don't. And you don't really know why, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just how you feel on the day. So what steps can we do so that if we are not feeling very confident, we can take these steps to get us to that place?
Yeah. So in my new book, I lay down 8 really clear steps. Whenever I write books, I want them to be really actionable, really easy to read, and for people to be able to really understand what is this formula to confidence. And it's filled with exercises that you can do every day. But if I give just a couple to people listening today. So one of them is called the power pose. So there's this concept called the embodied cognition effect, which means that the way that we hold ourselves and our body language actually affects how we feel inside. So for me, when I'm going into a talk, or I'm going into a meeting, or perhaps on a date, I'll adopt something called the power pose. And I'll make sure that I roll my shoulders back, that my back is straight, that my chin is upright. And I just take a few moments there and I breathe really deeply, and I might say an affirmation to myself like, I'm confident in who I am. I'm excited for what's coming. And so quickly you feel the shift in your energy and in the way that you feel. And I love knowing that things are backed by science as well, that you really can change how you feel just by changing the way that you enter a room.
But a power pose, right? If I'm getting this right.
Prepare yourself, ladies and
This is a power
gentlemen.
pose. It's like a good strong stance.
Superman.
It's like this sort of Superman.
You could have your arms down by your side and just roll your shoulders back and
chest
down.
out.
Yeah, and it's just a couple of minutes like this, and it really does work. And also, it's about the pace at which you walk into a room. So, you know, instead of hurrying in, you know, where you've got that kind of anxious energy, it's going in with intention. I always think to myself, and think for people, remember that you deserve to be in every room you enter, you know, and feel deserving of taking up space, and show yourself that you are by walking slowly with intention, speaking slowly, slowing down everything.
So we've got some steps, right? I want to go through these because I think these are going to be really helpful for everybody. You've talked about a couple. Can we start with number one? Step one, master your thoughts.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by mastering your thoughts?
So this is sort of the hardest step for people to manage, because our inner critic, I think, is so overwhelming and loud. And I think of it like, imagine that you're a comedian on stage, and imagine you go on stage and you're being heckled, and the audience are saying, you know, your jokes are no good, get off, or, you know, throwing things at you, whatever it is. And if you are that comedian, it's going to be very, very hard for you to give your best performance, because people are putting you down, it's making you self-conscious, feel off. Whereas if that comedian went on stage and the audience were cheering, laughing, nodding along, they would likely give a better performance. Now imagine that in our minds, when we're going into dates, social situations,
big meetings,
we're heckling ourselves.
Yes.
You're not going to do it right, you're going to mess up, you know, you're no good. So how can we expect ourselves to give our best performance? So in the book, I give lots of different kind of ways that we can actually rewire the way that we think, using practices like affirmations, interviewing our thoughts, and even just having awareness of why we're interpreting things in certain ways.
I like the idea. I do like that idea. It's interesting that you were saying, if you're going to go into a job interview, for example, just giving yourself a pep talk before you go in. There's an amazing little story in the paper from Tom Cruise, Hayley Atwell, talking about working with Tom Cruise, and she gets riddled with anxiety going into press conferences. And something that Tom Cruise helped her with, he said, she said, if I walk into a room, I feel the anxiety is coming, it makes me want to retreat into myself. He said, try doing the opposite. Try to look out and look around the room to go to where it is. Where is the thing that I've attached my insecurity on? If I keep looking long enough, it tends to be no more than a monster under the bed anymore. So it's almost like she sort of tries to visualise it, realise it's not there, and then it's gone. I love that as an idea.
Yeah, you know, we have so much power to change the way that we think and change the way that we feel. And I really do think this kind of lack of self-esteem is a global problem. And I am on a mission to help people feel better and fulfill their potential and step into their power, and they can absolutely all do that.
I remember someone telling me, and this is a very simplistic way of saying exactly what you're saying, but a little bit of fake it till you make it.
Yes.
And I know that sounds wrong.
No.
But if you kind of get, it's like this one about show up being your best self.
Yeah.
Wear the clothes that make you feel better. Put on a pair of heels if you're a lady and want to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, I say it's fake it till you become it. So visualize the best version of you that can exist and think, how do they show up? How do they walk into a room? How do they dress? How do they speak? What boundaries do they have? And how can you start acting as that version of yourself from today? Bring that version of you to life.
The interesting one, step 3, stop trying to be liked by everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an absolute people person, people pleaser. I'm desperate for that sort of thing. So why do I not need to worry about that?
Oh my gosh, it's an impossible task. And this is, for me, my favourite step. This is the one that is going to liberate you. And I share these 4 essential truths in the book. And one of them is, it's not personal. People aren't thinking about you as much as they think they are. You think you are. You know, if you're in the gym and you trip up or you do your weights wrong, you think, oh God, everyone's noticed. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I love the fact that, you know, one of them is that nobody is liked by everyone. You know, I think about the people that I admire or respect. As much as there are other people who agree with me, there are just as many people who don't like that person or can't stand them. And when you realise that no one is liked by everyone, you're like, oh, well, I may as well just be myself, you know?
Yeah. Confidence comes from that. And then I really like this one because this is something that I've experienced of. Be of service to others. Realise, actually, the difference you can make to other people fills you with confidence as well.
Yeah, I think that people forget this part of the confidence journey, but we need to feel like we are of value and that we are needed, and it feels good to do good. And I think being of service is, you know, random acts of kindness, giving someone a compliment, helping your community, helping your neighbour, your family. It makes you feel good to feel worthy and feel, that you have a purpose.
Yeah, for sure. Well, your new book, Confidence, 8 Steps to Knowing Your Worth, is out tomorrow. That was a really great chat. Thank you for coming on the show. It's just great to have a little reminder sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
About all the things you need to remember.
Thank you,
Roxy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.